All right, on today's episode, you have questions, we have answers. Buckle up.
What's up, Harold?
Hola.
How you doing?
Holla, holla.
You ready to chit chat today?
I am.
Do you know what we're doing today? What we're talking about? You're just showing up and looking pretty.
You know what? When I'm with you, it doesn't matter what we're talking about.
Oh, so sweet.
Y'all take a note of that.
You're awesome.
17 years.
Yeah. All right. Now I have to get focused on the topic again. So we're doing something fun today. We gathered some questions. So this is officially the Q&A episode.
Q&A.
Yeah.
And I don't know any of the questions, so this will be fun.
I know. So there's a range of questions about personal health, about business, about relationships when you're reaching goals and stuff. And so I think this will be interesting to dive into. Plus, again, we haven't talked about any of these questions, so we'll be just really answering these in real time.
I like it.
Right?
I'm a little scared.
Yeah. Do you have any questions you would like to answer today, Harold?
What's for lunch?
Oh, yeah. I've already planned. Well, I don't know. I've picked out my lunch.
Oh, all right.
So, okay. We're just going to dive right into this. This first question is from Miss Elizabeth Heil. And you can find her on Instagram at Elizabeth Heil04 or Facebook at Elizabeth Heil. So, I like this question. So what are your best tips to owning your current reality, facing the truths about where you're at in health, life, and finances?
What is your best tips for facing the truth in your
current reality and facing the truths about where you're at in health, life, and finances? Current reality, is an acquired taste. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Some thoughts. I got to process. I'm a processor. I don't just go shooting at the mouth unless it's something very...
Yeah. Well, I think, for me, my first question is, what is your current reality, in those areas, in health, life, and finances? I think, a lot of people that follow us are wanting to live the freedom parent lifestyle. There's a whole mindset that comes with that too. And a lot of people that are listening to this are in a place where they're actively pursuing on becoming their best self and learning to live their best life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first, to even face your current reality, be it good, bad, or a little bit of everything, it takes walking out of denial. If there's any element of denial, you truly can't face where you're at. And if you can't face where you're at, then you can't face where you're going, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the first step is to embrace, not out of shame and or guilt, where you're at so you can actually embrace where you're going. That would be my first tip. What about you?
Trying to stick to the question exactly without going down a rabbit hole. But I think it always goes back to, everyone, well, they lie to themselves. We lie to ourselves a lot, right?
Getting out of denial.
So I think it's really getting to be honest with yourself. And I think for us, I can only speak to what we personally did. It was because we'll justify a lot. People will justify so much. They'll give themselves outs. But it can be two extremes, though. Some people beat the hell out of themselves and shame themselves.
And they do nothing.
Right.
Because they feel so down.
And then some go the extreme. They go the other direction and they lie to themselves to where their excuses outweigh their results. And we see that all too often. Now it's like, I did a post on this, I don't know when it was, today or yesterday. It's like to the point where people need their excuses like they need air.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're sick and tired, like when we got to the point to where we just owned it and stopped lying to ourselves and we said, okay, in our finances, we're broke. This is what we're doing. This is how we're irresponsibly spending, or in our health. Okay, we keep making excuses because my tummy hurts, or you got to get the kids to school and do this and that. And you enter whatever excuse you want. I can't go to the gym. I don't have time, or whatever category it is. If you notice, we were noticing that it was just excuse after excuse after excuse. So I think it's really just looking yourself in the mirror. And for us, that's what it was. And it was getting honest on each category. Finances. We are where we are because of this. In our health, we are where we are because of X, Y, and Z. We are where we are in our relationship because of this. But then you flip it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the paradigm shift, is when you flip it and you say, because is the most persuasive word in the English dictionary.
That's good.
So why not use the word because to persuade yourself to be successful and change your reality?
Yeah.
So then you take that and you have the truth, because that's where you're at. That's your current reality. And then you say, I'm going to be healthy because, and you literally lay out the plan.
Oh, man.
I'm going to have a healthy and thriving relationship because, and you lay out the things.
Yeah.
Then you have you literally have a plan to operate by. And you just switch it around.
Yeah, I like that.
That's it. I'm done.
No, you're not. I always say it's like, do you say why not more than you say why you can? But I really love the word because, just one word, because.
How you can switch that.
There's a difference in something that's an excuse and something that's an obstacle. People view obstacles as things that you can go over, around, through, under, whatever. There's a way. It may be an obstacle, but just because it's there, like a mountain, doesn't mean you can't hike to the top, right? And that's the difference. But an excuse is a broken record. And facing your current reality means checking the things, finding yourself, in fact, what things are constantly coming in your life that get in the way of you moving forward in your, as Elizabeth's question, in your health, life, and or finances.
Yeah.
So identifying those things. And I'll be honest, just going back to my earlier years as I was, a young trainer and I was trying to make a name for myself and trying to make an income, there were some bad habits that I realized I carried over from being an employee, which technically I was still an employee in my beginning years of personal training, but yet still independent. And I had to find my own clients and I, made my own schedule. However, if I just didn't feel like going to work, like I had one of those days where like I was just kind of feeling yucky or whatever, I would text my clients and like, I'm sick today, when in reality, I probably should have just sucked it up. I didn't have an entrepreneur mindset. And I think the people that truly learn how to be their own boss and they find those little recurring things, like I would do that a lot until we owned our own gym, until we pivoted where we were becoming freedom parents with our, current business model. And I decided I needed it. Like I needed to achieve the goals that we created. All of a sudden I found myself being like, no, Sam, if you feel a little icky, you're showing up today. You're showing up for that call. You're showing up for that Zoom. If you got things going on with the kids, you're going to maneuver. You're going to figure it out.
Yeah, but I think most people, it's because they like the idea of a lot of these things. We talk about that, so I'll be redundant like I always am. But that's because the fundamentals are the fundamentals. They never change. But they like the idea of being wealthy. They like the idea of being healthy. They like the idea of all these things. But then the pain of creating and going and putting in the work to change scares the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they stop before they even start.
Yeah.
So I really do think the first thing is to, even just look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, am I happy with where I am in my nutrition? Am I happy where I am in my fitness? Am I happy where I am in my finances? Maybe you are. Maybe the outside world's, persuading you or, pushing you to do stuff or be something you're not. Yeah. You don't have to. I think that's the bottom line. You don't have to move forward in any of those areas if you don't want to. Because if you're being convinced or persuaded by outside sources, and that's the thing that's making you feel incongruent, then you just need to kick that to the curb and say, no, I'm good with where I am and who I am. But be honest with that. Don't be like this crutch and this scapegoat excuse because it's some other reason. But if you're genuinely content and happy in X, Y, and Z in all these areas, good, that's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to move forward.
That's a great point.
You don't have to change.
Congruent means, or incongruent means, when the things you think don't align with the things that you do. So to face your current reality in your health, life, or finances, you have to ask yourself, are the things that I'm thinking and wanting aligning with the things that I'm doing,
Yeah.
And vice versa. And that's the next biggest step. So I think coming out of denial, identifying the excuses, asking yourself if the things that you're doing are aligning with the things that you're thinking to create congruency. And then I would add creating the plan from there. Like once you face your current reality and you're like, no, I am not congruent. Congruency is like a scale. Nobody is, well, there might be some people that are completely incongruent in their life and all things. It's a hot mess. It was just like say equals hot mess, completely incongruent. Yeah. But I think for most of the people listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube, they're fairly congruent people. Like when we came into really changing our lives and ourselves, we had a lot of areas that we were pretty congruent. And then there's, a few areas where we weren't. So I want you to envision the areas first that you are, because you're stacking upon that. And it's simply about trying to, if you've got a scale, one side is congruency, the other side is incongruency in the areas that you want to succeed. And you're just taking these little weights from each side until it gets to the other side. So I like to, you like to gamify things. I like to gamify personal development for myself. Mm-hmm. And also thinking of it in that way removes a lot of shame and guilt that someone like myself with my personality would easily fall into.
Yeah. And you gotta, at least this is the way I operate. And I think it could help a lot of people, is most people complicate things way too much. I don't know if it's like self-sabotaging. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or it's like for me with my supplements, I take a lot of different supplements to fill the gaps, nutritional gaps in my game and through the Whole Foods where they lack. So I actually have the huge pill Sunday through Saturday, to where now I take my, 8, 9 different things and I put them in there and I fill them up on a Sunday to where I don't have the excuse if I am running a little late or a little behind, or kids like, hey, I got to get to school early today. I'm like, oh crap. Okay. I'll just take them later. I dumbed it down and I simplified it to where I just open the cap and pour it all in my hand, either stick them in my pocket or I'm popping them in my mouth and I'm drinking them. Like you really, I think that could help too. I think that's what really helped us get successful or helped us get congruent with what we said we wanted with 4 kids and a busy life, was you dumb it down. You got to simplify everything. Same reason why you see me in t-shirts all the damn time. We were coming to this podcast, and it's like, t-shirt. Grabbed a couple hats and whatever. Because anyway, it's just simplify things.
Yes, I love it. That was a great question. So this next question, I really honestly think would just be great for you to dive into. This is from at Mike Storms. And the question is, how do you help someone make the essential shift from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset and then an owner mindset?
Ooh.
It's good.
Yeah, that's a hard one. It's important, that's for sure. Because I think most of us are conditioned from an early age to clock in, clock out, put in as minimum effort as we can so we don't get fired. And then they pay us just enough so we don't quit. So it's kind of conditions of behavior. And then when you try and break off to be an entrepreneur, you're conditioned in that mindset of your frequency, your volume, your output is like subpar. And then you're expecting to get the return right away. And those two are a cocktail for destruction. Or for disappointment, should I say, not destruction, disappointment. So I think one of those things is really to paint the picture and open people's eyes to that. Is you may put in a lot of work and a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and you're going to have to start delaying gratification. The whole microwave mentality just doesn't work. And I think you just do this through a series of questions. Typically it asks, hey, well, if you continue to be an employee, would you get what you said you wanted? Like you just said you wanted this, and you wanted the freedom, and you wanted the time, and you wanted the vacation, and you wanted the security, and you wanted the relationships, and you wanted that. Well, if you continue to do what you're doing now, working as an employee, will that get you that? No. So you can't expect to do that as an entrepreneur and get what you want. It's going to look and feel a little different, but it can yield you the things that you say you want.
Yes.
So I think it's just asking people questions and walking them through it to where, because sometimes it's like when you ask people questions and you actually walk them through it and you listen to them and they hear themselves, it's very simple. And then it's again, I'll say paradigm shift. Everything's a paradigm shift. And then all of a sudden you see it clear and for what it is. And you accept it that, hey, that's just the path of an entrepreneur. There's a path of an employee. There's a path of an entrepreneur. I'm not sure what the path of the owner. I mean, I guess that could look different from being, a leader of leaders or a leader of people. I think that comes down to
Working
more
smarter
leadership.
and not just harder, and high leverage activities, really being able to identify working within your genius and outsourcing things that are not, or not paying attention to things that are not, But I think that is really good. And to help, I think most people do want to actually be their own boss, but sometimes they don't understand the benefits of even like what that is too.
Well, they want to, most people want to be their own boss because they want to do less work.
Just whatever they want to do, but they don't realize you really have to become your own boss. Like you have to tell yourself when to sit down and
You
work.
have to be self-motivated.
Yes, you have to guide yourself in setting actions, completing actions, and the reward is great because, the hours are flexible but not optional. So, and also you're removing a ceiling for
How
yourself.
did the question read again? Just to make sure I'm staying on it.
How do you help people make the essential shift from employee mindset to entrepreneur mindset and then ownership mindset?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's just walking them through. It's having conversations to where they can have the paradigm shift. I don't think we need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I like it. So this one is from Christina Rogers. You can find her on Instagram at christina.m.rogers. How do you handle mom guilt and burnout as you build a business with little kids?
Well, let me tell you. No,
Well, you could offer a guy perspective for sure, because actually I will say, first of all, lean into if you have a spouse, lean into his perspective.
Guilt's the devil.
Because this isn't necessarily always a mom thing. It could be a mom personality thing too. I'm a fan of the Enneagram, so figure out your number. It'll help you a lot. But very much an all or none type of person, like want to be 100% with my kids all the time, And the reality was, so that was one of my biggest guilt factors one of my biggest blessings is that we own and operate an independent business where we can work from our phones. Like a computer is really optional, anywhere, whenever we want or need to, right? And that was 100% what I wanted. Like we got into this. I'm like, I want to be with our babies, working from home. I love being home with them, and I love helping people, and I love being a part of bringing income into our home too. I want both. And yet I would always get in my own way because I would feel guilty that, I had my phone in front of my face for 30 minutes while our little ones were watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, but I was making an income. So I was getting what I wanted for our family and doing what I wanted, but then I was also making myself feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
And so what I would coach moms to do is be really clear about what your goal is, but also be very clear about what your expectations are, like what that's going to look like. So I figured out along the way that I just kind of expected myself to be like Betty Crocker and Martha Stewart, like walking around the house with an apron and being like mom boss and effortlessly making sure dinner was prepared and lunch was there. And I was always hugging and reading books to my kids at the same time. And I wasn't it was new to me. So first of all, that's new for a lot of moms, like to actually be able to work, well, not nowadays, but to be your own boss and work from home and have little ones. You have to kind of burst your bubble a little bit about what the fairy tale land of working from home is going to be like, and be real. Like, you are a boss. You are a boss mom with kids. And with that comes set hours of work. With that means, yeah, if you want to grow said business, you are going to be spending time on your phone and on your computer, but you can be intentional about it. So the next step was intentionality.
Yeah.
And defining what I needed in order to not just manage and maintain a business, but grow into the business that we needed. And then also I rewarded myself with the vision of, once we got it there, I knew I wouldn't always have to work like I did in the One Thing is an incredible book. I would tell all moms, all people actually to read, especially the chapter on counterbalance, because it in just a few pages told me and showed me how an entrepreneur thinks and how an entrepreneur acts and creates seasons of opportunity. But it also showed me what came after. And typically what comes after is your more realistic work hours, your more realistic season of flexibility and freedom because of the intense pushes. So in removing mom guilt, I got very clear about what's necessary of me to be both mom and mom boss. But also I'll kind of leave with this. I leaned into your vision. So a lot of moms, we can be very emotional. We're having babies. We're coming off of having babies. Our hormones can be all over the place, also depending what age you are. And we're women, and our emotional connection is what makes us wonderful, but it also can come at our demise as well. There would be times where I would go to you with how I was feeling always like, you know, in that moment, it'd be like, I'm a bad mom because I was looking at my phone while my kid was tugging at my leg, you know, or someone made a comment even, you know, other people maybe making a comment about, oh, you know, your mom is always on her phone or something. And listening to wisdom from you would always kind of bring me back to center. And it was one key thing too, I remember you saying is like, well, how much time do you really think our kids need from you every day, like staring them in the face, being next to them with doing nothing else? And it was like, and if we didn't have this business, would you be doing that still? And it was like, no, you'd probably be doing laundry, having them watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, or cleaning the dishes, having them play with their blocks or something. So the reality of it is, like, sometimes we use mom guilt as the reason, of course, why not, why we shouldn't. And I think we're hiding our fear of failure is really what we need to get real with. Like, I'm going to fail at this business. I'm going to fail at being a good mom. And I just want to call BS to it all and say, suck it up, buttercup. Like, you're a good person. You make good choices. You would never ruin your relationship with your kids or this business. Just go all in.
Yeah. No, it's good. Because like when we had our first child, we were really building this business. It was dropping them off at daycare. It was when they got home. It was everything you just said. It was putting them in front of the TV while we folded clothes, cooked dinner. It was all of that. So we weren't present at the time. We were in moments. But as you begin to build this business, all of a sudden then you're not taking them to daycare, you know, because they're staying with you.
Yep.
Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you start spending this more time with them to where, like, for instance, now we're to the point to where one of our kids get out of school on half day Friday and we're done. Our rule is we get what we can get done from 9 to 12, 1 o'clock when she gets off. And then the rest of the day we're present. Yep. It's pool time. It's whatever. And yeah, because it's that guilt.
Yeah. But when we were pushing that cart up the hill, it was every day but Sunday, right? We had Sunday was nothing, just complete restoration.
Yeah.
You know, pushing the cart up the hill, counterbalance, and it came with a reward. So same thing with mom guilt. And I think, you know, dads have it too. So
let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Great question. All right. Let's see. This is a really good question from Miss Maria Saya. And you can find her Maria_Saya. In your experience, are leaders born or made, or both? Explain, please.
I got access on I think I did a post on this and I forgot exactly how I structured it. I think I was actually posing the question. I think a lot are born. I think some have the tendency. I think it can be a learned skill too, but I think it's like anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people who have a natural gift or inherent traits. They're going to excel faster in that trait or in that gift, where others are going to have to work a little harder to get there. That makes sense?
Yeah.
You know, like you got professional athletes that can become very good, but they got to work twice as hard as some that can go half speed because they're just innately and inherently, good. But yeah, I think there's more to it than that. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think it can be both. From learning more and more about different personality types, they all have not the same, but usually one key strength that if that individual.
Well, actually, you just said something. I want to make sure I don't lose the thought. So excuse me. And I think it's where you're going is, I think some people try and put themselves in a box that a leader looks a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like you're a leader, I'm a leader. We look total different.
Mm-hmm.
We show up totally different. We speak totally different. Our styles are totally
mm-hmm.
different. Doesn't make one any better or any less than the other.
Yeah.
So I think first off, I think to your point, personality,
mm-hmm.
don't put yourself in a box like you have to be someone else.
Yeah. Well, and I am becoming more and more passionate about this actually, because within the scope of what we do outside of the Freedom Parents, we're a leader amongst other leaders. And while we all have similarities, we're all so different. Like there's some of them that I admire so much because their brains are so analytical, so organized, systemized. They naturally come up with these amazing systems for people and duplication.
Yeah, that's not me.
And there's others that are presenter driven, like they command a stage. When they speak, they can't help but say a message that impacts people and creates inspiration or breakthrough. And then there's others where they're quiet but dominant resilience and conciseness just really speaks to people. And I could keep going, all similar yet very different. And I fell into a season of comparison, thinking and looking and admiring other people and feeling like I was lacking something in order to continue helping people really get to where they need to be. And I forgot
mm-hmm.
to look at the fact that I got to where we were being 100% just who I was, So I think it's a bit of both. I think it's a bit of nature versus nurture too,
mm-hmm.
that some people just don't even realize that they do have leadership qualities because of what you said, that they tend to fall into some comparison or putting people, in a box. But you could go study, history's past presidents. You go look at different kinds of celebrities and often their main like personality is not what you think it is. Like you would think like they're so outgoing or they're also dominant or this or that. And you can look at it and some of them are complete introverts and would honestly just rather be at home in their PJs with their dog and, whatever. But it turned out that they were just super passionate about this one thing, that they just had to do.
It's like flipping the switch on and flipping the switch off.
Yeah. And I think when you figure out something like that about yourself, like when you figure out you have a mission or a passion or a goal, and it's whatever that drives that individual, then I do believe when they're aware, a leader can be made because they're going to seek out how do they become the individual or get around individuals or learn the things that they need to learn and to become who they need to be. And I think also leaders don't actually seek out to be leaders. Like, I don't think they wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a leader. Like, it's like there's a mission, there's a passion, there's a goal, there's something they have to have or accomplish in their life. And, leaders become leaders by the doing and doing things in a way that other people can or want to follow.
And I think great leaders were once great followers too.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they still are great followers of great leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the problem is some people they don't want to follow the great leaders. They just want to think they need to be a leader. And it's like, you got to be a good follower first.
Exactly.
To become a good leader, but make sure you're following the right person or people.
Yeah. Like in some of our leadership training groups, we hammer down really, really simple things. And I think sometimes people have a hard time understanding like why we could be so hard on them about something so simple. Because if you don't master simple things and you can't do things, the simplest of things, then you can't lead other people and do it, because a great leader is a great doer of things that other people can duplicate.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just a teller.
Right.
Good stuff.
That's good. Good one, Maria. All right. So this one is from Dwayne Brummett at Dwayne Brummett. When you're making big changes to your lifestyle, it could affect relationships with those closest to you. Perhaps you're worried about friends or family not fully supporting your decisions or your progress, affecting them in some way. How do you handle this?
Friends or family when you're striving for more.
Yeah, as you're changing and
yeah, that could be a whole topic. I've actually trained on this before. So it was like a 30-minute training or 20 minutes, something like that. But that's what really holds a lot of people back, unfortunately. Because once you get started, I can recall when we started and all of a sudden we didn't start showing up as often to the parties. We weren't drinking as much. We were consumed and obsessed with what we wanted to create.
Mm-hmm.
So then people start to notice that. They start to take it personally. So then you enter like what's called no man's land. And a lot of people misinterpret it and say, oh, it's lonely at the top. I'm like, no, it's not lonely at the top. You just haven't got to the top yet. You're in this no man's land. And typically that's when people begin to gravitate back to what was comfortable and what they know. And then they go back. They let the proverbial crabs pull them back down because they feel like it's lonely. And it's like, no, you're in no man's land. You need to continue to push, because once you get to the top, it ain't lonely. You're going to be surrounded by a whole nother level of people who's inspiring you, who's encouraging you, who's not going to tell you to slow down. You're working too much. They're not going to say, oh, they're not going to get offended if you don't answer their text right away. They're going to know you're busy getting things done. Whole nother level of thinking, whole nother level of emotional intelligence. But the problem is no man's land. You can get out. You could be there for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on the vehicle you have, depending on the skill level you have, depending on the belief system you have, depending on some traits maybe you need to pivot on and create. And unfortunately, that's where most people die.
Yeah.
And they slide back.
You know, I find it interesting. There's a lot of fear tactics around becoming successful. Like it's lonely at the top. You could think about, all the other sayings. And I find it interesting that these fear tactics and these sayings are created by people who don't know what it's like to be successful. And then we worry about what others are going to say as we change. And it's like, it's the enemy. You're allowing people's thoughts and opinions who don't understand where you're going to infiltrate the joy that you should get from the process of having breakthrough.
You're allowing, that's what I'm saying, when you're in no man's land, you're allowing the people who get pulled back. They're allowing people who decided and chose mediocrity. They decided scarcity. They decided surviving. They decided whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're trying to pull you back and make you feel guilty, like you're doing something wrong, or you forgot about them, or you don't like them anymore. No. That's not about you. That's about them. So then you need to keep pushing forward, because I'm telling you, when you get to the top, I'll say it again, you'll be surrounded by people who are the total opposite. They're abundantly thinking. They're encouraging you. They're supporting you. They're inspired by you. You're inspired by them. Whole different world.
Yeah.
Whole different spectrum.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I'll just add to that, and we can close up, but this will answer Gabby Perez's question a little bit too, at miss.Gabby_Perez. She was asking about how you build support systems. And you know what, when it comes to friends or family that are initially feeling uncomfortable, because there's a difference, change makes people feel uncomfortable. They don't understand what's going on. This can go for spouses too. With those that are close to you, you will find some will, some won't. some won't support you or get it no matter what. That's not really your problem. That's theirs. We need to pray for them. There's some kind of internal hurt that they need to work through. Some will. There's going to be the people you love that love you will end up being some of your greatest support and cheerleaders. And it may take them time, but like we always talk to people about getting their spouse on board too, it's also going to take communication. So if you do believe that this individual would indeed support you if they understood what you're going after, then the next step is communication. Because sometimes we just don't tell people what we're doing because we're afraid of their response. We're afraid they're going to laugh at us or mock us, or we're afraid.
Yeah, that was just fuel for the fire, because we had a few people that I know probably thought we were nuts, because we almost thought we were nuts. We kept telling them what we were going to create and what we were going to do. And 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3 years go by. You start doubting yourself a little bit, but then you continue.
You see results, so you know you're making movement.
And you're like, this can be done. I'm seeing people do it.
Yeah.
I know it can be done. And that almost becomes fuel as fire, because it's like, God dang it, now I'm going to prove you wrong.
Right.
So use it however you want.
Yeah, you could use it as a goal and motivation as well. So
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so do your due diligence. Those that won't, you keep being you, because at some point you're a light to everyone.
Yeah, that's good. You said, I was about to say that. You need to become that light, because maybe you'll open the doors and open their eyes. Or you know what? Maybe you get to a point to where, like we are. We help family out when they need things. There was a time when they said we work too much, and now, I don't mean this in a mean way, but now who they calling when they need help? People who work too damn much. I'll just say it.
Yeah. We have a pretty good life. We definitely don't work too much. Okay.
That's it.
That's it for Q&A. That was awesome. Thank you for everyone that sent your questions in. That was a lot of fun. All right, friends, remember, you deserve to live the life that you desire. So go out and create your new American dream now.